Welcome back to session 40. In the previous two sessions, I gave some very specific, down-to-earth analogies, but I don't know if you could relate to it. If you don't have the similar, life experience, you probably do not really relate to that sort of things. So I'm going back to more abstract or more in general terms. So what does that mean when it says defined or not defined, but it all appears to be different, but considering where it came from and where it ended up is really all the same or the same difference. I would say we always hear people talking about encouraging you to think outside the box or get out of your paradigm. So what is the box? What is the paradigm? Paradigm apparently is you're used to a certain way of thinking and everything is so well defined clearly for you, and you're used to basically confining yourself within that dimension, well defined dimension, as versus hey, be a free spirit, just do whatever you want. Actually, it's a pretty good challenge for a lot of folks. Okay, I would say majority of people are used to, because that's the comfort zone. People don't like changes by human nature. They don't. Okay, so what is the outside the box? The box you put yourself in, of course. So if you don't have this predefined this and that, you can be very brave. In fact, you don't even know the difference. Either that's bravery or it's just pure stupidity because hey, you're ignorant. You're not well educated. You don't have any knowledge. Knowledge of what? Of predefined and nevertheless confined paradigm, right? Does that make sense? So basically, so here you might have some questions. Hey, wait. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, we go to school, get educated, right? And you're telling me we don't need all that knowledge? Well, I think you're taking this too far. That's not what it means. I'll give you an example again. I don't know if you can relate to that. Old artists, okay, at least in the contemporary Western school art, in that sense, old artists are supposed to receive certain academic training. And if you never had training, there's a professional term for that. It's called outsiders arts. What's outsiders art? You don't have that box. You're free spirit. And so you're not trained. So you're outside the box. You're the outsider artist. Okay. Let's talk about those guys or ladies got trained, got their degree in bachelor degree, master degree in fine arts. And then, hey, they learned all the theories, the art histories, and the methodologies. At least, they're at least in the Western, not in China. China, the specific specialization is pretty much limited to certain techniques over certain artistic medium or media. Whereas at least in America, you would be introduced to at least, 3 different kind of basic artistic medium, 3D, 2D, whatever the term you want to use. You need to learn a lot more than what you would do in China. But still, the whole program, the whole point of the program is to put you in a box, okay? And then guess what? Your entire career, right from the day you came out of school, art school, your whole artistic, life, professional life, your career, what do? You try to break yourself free from that box they put you in back in the art school. And then you ask yourself, what the heck was the whole point I went to this school? What for? Can I be a taught artist? Because people, after all, a lot of artists, even the ones, with the biggest name, making the biggest dollars, in the art, auction places, or, collected by the biggest names of the, art museums. What do you think most people actually could get their art? What's that about? Or is that even, great art? I'll be honest with you, a lot of people don't really know anything. They don't get it, stand right in front of the supposedly art. I'm not going to give you too much detail because then it's like, I'm attacking some artists, so I'm not going to give you details. But what I do know, a lot of people told me, what is that? I don't understand that. So now it becomes kind of cliche. At least in America, people say, "Oh, just because people don't understand your art, that may necessarily make you a great artist." It's like, "Oh, you don't get my art? Great! That's the beauty of it. Nobody gets it. What's the point, right? What's the point? Do you even get it yourself?" But see, here is the analogy, or I think it's a perfect analogy, right? You go to school, get a degree, so you can lock yourself in a box, and then right away you try to break yourself free from that box. Why? I know why. Because without that degree, you won't be able to climb the ladder to have your value being recognized by the market. Because you're not really creating art just for yourself. You still try to make a living out of it. Very few artists I know can actually, confidently say, I spit on the market. The heck with all that collector thing. I'm just doing it for myself. Oh, my friend, being an artist does not mean you don't get married. You don't have kids. You don't have the support. You don't need to put the bread on the table. You do have some very practical, obligations to the family, to your loved ones, right? So, hey, you can be brave as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you still have to sell some of your arts. So that's why you went to the art school. That's why you cannot afford to be a outsider artist. And we already talked a lot about it in ancient Chinese society, the Chinese elite. They would be ashamed to make a living, with their artwork creations, right? But of course, they got their salaries from the royal court. They're on the royal court payrolls. So, of course, it was humble salary, but hey, they didn't have to worry about, feeding their children, their loved ones, right? So I think that gives or hopefully gives the example on why people want to, or well, not necessarily want to, but let's say need to go into the box, and then they have to jump out of there and thinking outside the box. And of course, we always heard about the big corporate world often invite artists to go to give a speech. You think the artists typically understand how the corporate world operate? Most of them don't, but that's exactly why they're invited. Some of the big companies today want their employees to be very creative, do not limit themselves to the confinement of the boxes that their school gave them or other trainings gave them, right? So that is the beauty we're talking about with the Taoism teaching from this Tao Te Ching, that it's all the same differences. It's like, okay, I know what it is, but I cannot really, put my fingers on it. That's one way. And the other is, oh, are you talking about what is commonly referred to as blah, blah, blah? And if you Google, it will give you the definition of this. But if you go to the, Harvard, dictionary or Oxford dictionary, it will say a little bit different here and there. Well, hey, do I actually have to go with either one of them? Not really. If a good Taoist, you don't take the format things too seriously. Of course, you don't want to reinvent wheels on everything and anything, because that is just, redundant, and it's not very productive. But the point is, on the strategic level, you have to be somehow, from time to time, somewhat a kind of spirit, free spirit. You can you cannot be a nerd all the time, follow the rules here and there. I will not tell you how I, taught my kid about, why the rules were made to be broken. Of course, it's really, when, why, and how do you appropriately break what rules. That's very important. But the whole point is, if you are, going by the book all the time, imagine how boring you are. I don't want to be your friend because you don't know nothing except for what other people teach you. And you are such a good copycat. And where's you as you, right? I'm just exaggerating. Of course, people, most people, at least you got to be a law-abiding citizen, right? But when, I guess at least in the 21st century, when a lot of good employers try to hire some new bloods, what do they want to have in, among their workforce for the new blood? They want you to be very diversified, very creative. And what does that mean? That means you better think outside the box. Forget whatever, the box your school, put you into. It might be good on some, fundamental framework level, but that's only your baseline. You do not just stay there. You need to get, up and way above that baseline to become so productive so that your work actually speaks for, itself. And that is exactly what I was talking about, what Dao De Jing is saying, the same difference. So if you are really what they call the leader type, you do have this vision. Or, of course, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could perfectly be happy, be a follower, and, get your job done at the end of the day, every day, and get your paycheck. The reward is there, the paycheck, and that you can put the bread on the table for your loved ones. That's great. If you don't, need any other rewards, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's this session, which is very short. We basically end at 13 minutes into the clock. So until next session, ciao.